YouTube, Magnum Prime here, and today we're taking a look at Lemon Tree's Purple Potato, their take on a masterpiece Shockwave. Before we do, just want to give a massive shout out to all my subscribers. Thanks for coming back and watching these, really means a lot to me. And if you're new to my channel, make sure to hit the subscribe button and the like button if you find the review useful. Okay, here we go. So for accessories we get a few. We get a stand, which I'll clip together and show off in alt mode. We also get these blast effects, which are translucent purple, nicely sculpted. They look pretty good actually. And again, I'll show those off in alt mode, although you can attach them to the boosters in bot mode if you want to. We also get two of these, which are the standard Shockwave arm cannons. Now then, one of them you can clip both of them together if you want, but it would be a bit silly. But you get the sort of Shockwave hose, which is a big piece of spring, and it's quite strange actually. You have to clip this on to an arm cannon and a little stopper yourself, and I'm not sure it works really. It's kind of like a little bit too thin for the plastic end, so you kind of have to jam it on there, and it opens up the spring a bit. And it's almost like they sort of thought, well, we need to do a Shockwave hose and it needs to look kind of premium, so we'll make it metal, and here's a big spring that we can use. Like, I don't know, it doesn't feel very good, this. So here it is attached to the bot, and it's basically you just pull the fist off, it's on a little peg, and then you pop this thing on, and here it is. I don't know, it doesn't really work for me. I think it would have been nice if it would have been all one accessory, so it was just pre-attached to two stoppers and you don't have to do this thing yourself, because you can see it kind of warps the spring a little bit. I don't know, it's a bit naff, I think, but there you go. And we also get a light up effect, which you activate with a small magnet, and you just touch this to the side of the head somehow. You kind of rub it till it works. There we go. And that looks pretty good. I do like a nice light up effect. And yeah, it looks pretty good. It's easy to access as well, which I appreciate. So there we go. So overall, I think the accessories are sort of okay, but they're not earth-shattering. In particular, the stand's a little bit wobbly. It's not as sturdy as it could be for the alt mode, and it's a shame about the hose. I wish that was a bit better. But the blast effects are good, the light's good. So overall, it's kind of okay. I'm going to give it 8 out of 10. So in terms of poseability, it's a tale of two halves on this figure. The top half is good, very good in fact, and then the bottom half is a bit clunky. So the head is on a ball and a hinge and will basically swivel all the way around, and it's got a really good up and a really good down. You've got a really good butterfly on the shoulders, really good extension out to the side as well, way more than 90 degrees, double elbow, wrist swivel. The fingers have got 2 points of articulation each, multiple fingers, and then the thumb is on a ball. Down at the waist, you've got a full waist rotation all the way around. Now then, this is where it gets a bit clunky. So down at the legs, you've got hip skirts front and back, and hard ratchet out to the front and out to the back, and a universal for the out to the side as well. But here is the thing, you've got a super tight ratchet here and very thin plastic for that it's kind of attached to, and it just feels like this is too strong for the connection there. Just to put a real point to kind of note, you've got a bicep swivel, a little one, not much, and then you've also got a knee swivel as well, but you can't bend the knee while it's swiveled. You'll just break the bottom part of the leg because of the kind of clearance there. The knee has got a really tight 90-degree bend on a hard ratchet there, but this is another point. When you go back to put it back, some of these panels, because of the way that they're sort of held together quite loosely, they kind of flap a little bit as you're gripping the knee, so just be careful. Down at the ankle, you've got two ankle rockers. You've got one on the inside here, and then you've also got one actually built into the foot as well. The one in the foot is super stiff, and whenever I try and turn it, it basically just activates the one on the inside of the ankle there. You've got toe tilt as well, but with this, it's actually on a really thin little pin joint in there. So he's not coming up on the camera much because of all this dark purple, but there is a little thin pin joint in there. And after a few goes of transforming this guy back and forth, this has become a little bit loose on here. So he will kind of rock back a little bit, to be honest. He's not back heavy, so he's not going to topple all on his own, but certain angles he is just going to go. So yeah, Poseability is really very good at the top, and it's very clunky down at the bottom. So I'm going to give it 7 out of 10. So in terms of presence, he's a really good looking figure, no two ways about it. Really good looking Shockwave. Absolutely love the colour. It's proper purple, and I love the contrast with the pink here and the grey done on the legs and the feet as well. Really good stuff. He's pretty clean from the front. He's obviously got the kibble round at the back from the alt mode, but to be honest, it's got to go somewhere, and I think that's really done quite well given where it goes for the alt mode. It's pretty clean actually. I think the back of the legs look a little bit horrible, and I don't mind this so much down here, although it would be nice if this all closed off properly. But you've just got a kind of metal bit showing there, and then a bit of a gappy bit. They've sort of put a little flap in there in the transformation, but it doesn't really do much. It's almost kind of pointless other than just sort of be grey and sort of cover it a little bit. So a little bit strange, that one, given the sort of effort everywhere else. And then also, I don't like the metal bits on the arms here. Because he looks so fantastic and has such a good aesthetic everywhere else, I think it's a real shame that they're there. It just breaks the overall look a little bit. Not much, but it does. But yeah, really great presence. Just, it is a proper good looking figure. Looks fantastic on the shelf. 9 out of 10. So in terms of quality, I think there's a really interesting dynamic between the look of the bot and the feel of it. So we'll start with the paint. I think there's not much on it. I think all of this purple is either a really highly finished plastic, or it's got a lacquer on it of some sort, or at most a thin coat of paint. I could be wrong, it just feels that way. Now there's nothing wrong with that, because they've absolutely decked it out in really nice sculpt work and detail. It's obviously got painted accents down here on the legs and up around the boosters as well. And you've got this translucent bit in the middle with the sculpted detail underneath, all of which just give it a look of quality and a look of premiumness. And I think the same is kind of true of the plastic. It looks solid and chunky, but when you pick it up, it doesn't really feel like it. Now, it's good plastic, don't get me wrong, it is decent stuff. It's just got a little bit of a contrast between the look and the feel of it, put it that way. My biggest kind of point to note with this figure is the hardware in terms of quality. I think it's got stuff in the right places, so you've got ratchets on the shoulders and the hips and the knees, but particularly down here on the legs, you've just got a real contrast between these super solid chunky ratchets and then the sort of thin plastic that's connecting it to the leg. There's a real mismatch there, put it that way. And again, down here on the knees as well, these are even worse. These are much stronger ratchets, but you've got these kind of thinner feeling plastics around it. So real contrast. My biggest gripe, to be honest, though, is definitely this pin joint down here on the toe tilt, because it's got to do some work in transformation and it doesn't come out the other side in the same condition. So yeah, I'm going to give it 7 out of 10 for quality, and I think that's fair. There is definitely good things about this figure quality wise, but it's also not quite there in a few kind of places for me. So for a size comparison, here he is next to the boss, and it's interesting actually because while I've been mucking around with this figure, I had in mind that he'd be at least as tall, or if not, maybe a little bit taller than MP36, but obviously he's not. His head's just above Megatron's shoulder height there. Now, I don't have MP29 anymore, MP Shockwave, but I do seem to remember he was about shoulder height, about there, so this guy's not much bigger than him, but he feels like it, and I think it's probably just because he's so wide and bulky, and maybe the boosters kind of give the sort of illusion of height as well. So there we go, just an idea of a size comparison if this is going to be your MP Shockwave. So on to transformation, and it's a little bit unfun, to be honest, this one. It works, and it's got great tolerances. It is really well engineered actually for the work that this thing does. Everything works and moves where it should and goes into place. it's just a bit fiddly in places. It starts off very smooth, but once you get around to the legs and these arms, at one point you've kind of got everything hanging out, all the panels and all the flappy bits, and combine that with having to move sort of big chunky ratcheted legs around, so you're moving at one point really solid things, and then the next bit is kind of fiddly pieces. And in particular these, obviously the cylindrical in nature, cylindrical panels, tabbing things together like that is never easy, never straightforward. But in fairness, it does achieve what it needs to. It is just a little bit fiddly getting there. So overall, the transformation really well engineered, well designed. It's just fiddly and unfun, but that's due to the nature of what it's trying to do, to be honest. It's got a lot of work to do to get to this mode. So the alt mode is absolutely stunning, really, really nice. I'd seen photos of this beforehand, but I wasn't quite prepared for just how nice the overall look would be. It's not fully faithful to the G1 cartoon. There are some colour differences and some of the proportions are different, but it's unmistakably Galvatron's ship. It's all elegant and evil and deadly and menacing. Really nice. You've got tons of detail everywhere. It's got all these lovely little greebly bits down the side. It's like the side of a Star Destroyer, and the kind of painted bridge windows down here, and all of that flows round to the back. It's just everywhere. Really nicely sculpted, really nicely done. And some of that actually helps with some of the sort of panel lines. You've got sections where things don't fully kind of clamp together from the bot mode, but your eye's not drawn to it because of all of this stuff. It just flows in with the overall aesthetic, and whether that was by design or kind of accident, it kind of doesn't matter because it just works. The overall look is there. Quality wise, it's interesting actually, because visually to look at, and for most of the kind of feel of it, it is top-notch quality stuff. Really, really great. Nicely painted. All of the greebly bits have a nice little extra paint on top of it, and there's not a blemish in sight. There's nothing like that. But there are a couple of bits where it just gives it, when you're handling it, a little less than premium feel. So there's like the wobbliness of the stand. This little translucent bit down here, kind of minor nitpicky thing that possibly, but definitely I don't like the wobbliness there. It doesn't feel very secure, and you've probably seen it when it kind of be moving it around. These are a little bit loose, you know, so little kind of things like that. Just, I don't know, they just take away from it a little bit. Not much, but a little, and it's only when you're kind of handling it. Like I say, visually to look at, not an issue. There are a couple of QC points on mine, just to note. So I've got this big scuff on the top, which is unfortunate. It doesn't show up from all angles, but when it catches the light, it is very, very noticeable. And then this armature, it just doesn't tab in, unfortunately. This section here wasn't glued together properly, and it doesn't squeeze together. You can almost see a little gap of light through there. And I debated whether to put this in the transformation, but I think it's really a QC with the alt mode because it just doesn't tab in. It is QC rather than design because this side works. So, you know, just a couple of little things, to be honest, and they are minor because, as I say, the look of this is absolutely stunning. And I know lots of people are talking about putting this with Unicron and having a display kind of thing, and it will look fantastic. It really will. So 9 out of 10. So there we have it. Adding it all together, he gets a final score of 7.8 out of 10. And I think this is a good figure, but it's not a showstopper. It's got a really great alt mode and a good looking bot mode as well. But there are a couple of issues, I think, with the underlying hardware that just sort of impact on the transformation and the poseability, and just limit in those kind of places. Now, if you're going to put this in alt mode, that might not bother you because you're just going to display it as Galvatron's ship, and that's fine. And equally, if you just want a stylized kind of MP Shockwave to stand there, then that probably won't bother you either. But it's the bit in between, it's the transforming robot aspect of this that I think is let down by some of the sort of hardware choices and just how they kind of work. Anyway, I hope it's been useful. Thanks for watching, take care, and bye for now.